Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio talk show, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m., and that's on the Eastern time zone as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can find us on television two different ways. Channel 182 on Charter Communications. That's up in North Alabama. Another way you can find us is worldwide, and that's through Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on the newscasters.com. And on the radio, you can find us with the biggest country station in South Carolina, WZLA. It's always great to be part of that team as well. Make sure that you listen to them. If you find them online, that's 92.9. That's for South Carolinians. Another way you can find them is on the web. So listen to them that way. And also Benji and Lacey in the morning. Make sure you catch them. So brother and sister team, you know how brothers and sisters can jab each other? They do. They go for it. So go ahead and check them out. You'll find all kinds of news, weather, even national news, and you'll find the local news as well. But so thankful for all the platforms we have where we can go out and we can meet. Also on all the social media sites where they're still there as well. I have DeJoly with me right now, and DeJoly is a good friend of mine. We've been friends for a number of years. And so I took advice from you, which I do all the time. I learned to breathe from you, so thank you for that. But I'm a left-hander. So writing in the journal, I was getting it, and I was writing things in there, and I would understand it. But you came across something where you switch hands. So instead of left-handed, I started writing right-handed. And it's amazing. It seems like somehow, I don't know how it did it, how it triggered. But explain how that works.
Well, when you're writing with your dominant hand, you're writing with filters. Like sometimes you can actually see yourself correcting your spelling or putting a comma where you should have put a comma. You go back and you look at things. You kind of edit in your head when you're writing, and it comes out that way because when you're writing with your dominant hand, your brain is engaged. When you're writing with your non-dominant hand, which was for you would be your right hand, you don't have any filters. It bypasses all of that. So when you're writing, it's going to come out maybe messy at first, but as you do it more and more, you become more authentic on the page, more honest with yourself on the page, but you also can read it better as you write it more often that way.
Well, it looks like a second grader's handwriting. I mean, it's really kind of bad.
That's a really good point because that's the age of that, and maybe a little bit older is the age in which we really form some of our values, our fears, our likes, our dislikes. We form all that at that time, and that part of us still exists. So when you're not filtering and you're working with your other hand, you're actually tapping into that part of yourself. We often call it the inner child. So you're tapping into that, and that is a more authentic part of you than the part that's filtered.
Well, it's amazing the techniques that you're coming at. It's helping all of us, the audience, and everybody throughout. So let's talk a little bit because you are an author and you are a speaker. Before we get started and dig in a little bit more, how can folks find out more about you and what you teach?
Well, I'm on the web. I have DeJoly.com as my website. I also am on Facebook. I am actually speaking this coming weekend at a conference out of Oakland, California, called Survivorship. And my topic is about remembering wholeness because it's for people who have and this is an extreme, but it's a people who have dissociated from life because it was too extreme. There was a lot of trauma. And oftentimes we walk through life dissociated from ourselves, and we don't have to have gone through a huge amount of trauma. We just are that way. We sit and we scroll. That's one way that we get away from ourselves. It's a way that we disconnect from the world. And so in order for you to come back to yourself, that's a real important part of the writing that we do. But my presentation is, I used to speak at that conference in person, but during COVID, they went virtual. So it's a virtual conference. And then in my local area for the first time since I've lived here 27 years, and I haven't ever done it before, but I'm putting on a 2-hour workshop about transformational writing and in the journal realm, and introducing them to different aspects of personal writing, professional and personal, but mostly transformational. It's called trauma-informed writing. And basically, we walk through life, we don't even know we've been wounded. So this kind of writing allows you to be honest on the page in a safe place, because safety is a key. I'm getting away from where you can find me, but if this resonates with you, you can think a little bit more about looking me up and maybe contacting me, because you have a way to contact me there. But now I lost my train of thought. But you're writing for basically healing the wounds that you have, and you don't even know that you have. Oftentimes we get those wounds, well, always we get those wounds from our childhood, and many times we're told, oh, don't bother with that. That was just such a little thing. But in the reality of it is, when you're little, everything is a big thing. You're depending on people to take care of you. You're depending on and finding love in whatever way you can. And if that means you have to change your perspective of the world in order to fit into people's I like you kind of, standard, you have to behave a certain way. You have to say a certain thing. You have to be smart enough to do this or that. You have to be strong enough. You have to be a jock in order for your parent, probably your father, to love you, or whatever, to show any kind of affection. And we need affection. We want affection, and we want to have that kind of relationship thing going, but we don't often always get that. Mm-hmm. So writing is a place where you can put it on paper and it becomes safe for the first time. Oftentimes you write what you can't say out loud. Mm-hmm. You try to say things to people and they don't understand. And so oftentimes you back down and you get quiet and you go back into yourself, and you don't know, how am I ever going to get this out of me? Because it's eating me alive. Well, one of the first places you can do it is on paper. A lot of times people draw, they write, they do art, like they'll use their hands to create something, and your hands, the tactile part of it. That's why I say a pen and paper rather than the keyboard, is the connection between your brain and is the tactile part of putting that pen on the paper and writing. It becomes a very kinesthetic connection between your brain and your body, because you want to know what's going on in your body. How do you react when somebody comes toward you and they're a big person and you're just a little person? How are you reacting, and why are you reacting that way? They haven't done anything to you. They haven't said anything. So I look at those things, and I encourage people just to become curious about themselves. What is it how is their behavior not reflecting what they think of themselves? It's reflecting something that's coming from back here, like the reactions that sometimes we have in relationships. We don't know why we do these things. And if we don't know how to name those things, one of the things that I teach is emotional literacy, so that you can get a wider range of what you feel, and you have a way to describe those things, then you're more apt to have good communication with people, as opposed to, well, you should have known what I was thinking. How many of us have said that? You should have known. But we can't expect other people to know what we're thinking, but we do expect it.
Well, let me ask you another question, because even at 60, I'll be 67 next month. So even at 67, I think about things like something will jolt something in my head that I didn't know even bothered me. Something that happened when I was a kid. And it could be a television show. It could be just something somebody says, and it'll go, oh, man, I remember that was a bad place. Why does that happen? Why do you think of things sometimes years later, decades later?
Well, for the same reason that we dissociate. where it may have been a very hard experience. And so for us to keep on functioning and put on that face of I'm okay, we push it clear to the back of our little consciousness, and it doesn't start filtering out until we've lived some experiences, and then something triggers it to come forward. That's a very common kind of repression of our memories. And but it's important when those do come forward for you to sit and write to figure out what it is that actually was the trigger, because it wasn't this new person, it wasn't this new thing, it was the thing back then that triggered you. So if you're functioning from that place, then chances are you're functioning from that place throughout all of your relationships. So it's good for us to get some clarity about what it was, what it is, and the difference between was and is a big space. So for me, it's like, that's not happening to me right now. So why am I afraid? Why did that reaction come up? And I go back and I look and I say, well, now, DeJoly, you're in the present moment. You're experiencing something that's related to that, but it isn't happening to you right now. So let's just take a look at that. And then I write a little bit about it, and I'm going, yeah, that's what it was. I know. Recently, I had an experience where I was when I don't know if you've. There was a video on my reels, right, of a politician saying, "How dare you ask me those questions?" And I was like a deer in headlights. And then rage came out. I was like, "Ugh, how could you dare say that to that person?" Because she was asking you a legitimate question, So I was all getting in myself. So I had to write it down, and I said, "Oh, that was my mother. She used to, oh yeah, okay, I got that." So once I was able to discern, and through writing, you get a lot of clarity, but once I was able to discern what it actually was that was triggering me, it wasn't that, she was being asked questions. It was the way she responded. Yeah. That was the trigger. Because it's arrogant, it was arrogant. It was condescending. It was all kinds of things. And when I get that kind of feeling from someone, I have that reaction, but it's less and less when I write it out. What is it that you actually responded to, DeJoly? And that has to do with being aware of and paying attention to how your body is reacting, because your body will tell you everything. Your body doesn't lie, So if you're having like tingling in your ear, or your heart's kind of pattering, like, oh, what's going on? Or you've got a stomach ache or something, pain in your shoulder, you can always trace it back to something that you've been hiding in your subconscious that you can bring forward and say, oh, that's what that is. Believe it or not, I was having some anxiety probably now a couple months ago. And I was just like, what in the world is going on? I was actually questioning whether I should call an ambulance and go to the hospital for a heart attack. And I ended up actually writing it out and saying, oh, that's what that was. And so my whole body released, my shoulders went down, my neck was tense, and then it wasn't. And my heart stopped that pattering. And I was like, oh, now I don't have to go to the hospital. So you can see that it relates. Your mind and body are related.
They are. And so I cannot be in closed spaces. I have to be where I can see a window. So this is why Phil said, I think that it's in the basement part of the house. It's a tri-level house. He said, but I think this needs to be your office. And I said, in a basement? And he said, well, it's not a basement. He said, you've got all those windows all the way across. And what we'll do is we'll have your camera this way, so you can face those windows. It'll do two things. First of all, you're not going to feel like you're in a closet somewhere, because when I was rowdy, I would be put in a closet with the door locked.
Oh boy.
And so I've got those windows, and it's kind of, and I love nature. I cannot stand, because the closet I would be put in was it's the bathroom that was in the middle of the house. There were no windows even in the bathroom. Wow. And we put in that closet in there. And I remember just banging on the doors trying to get out of that closet. Yep. And so Phil asked me one time, he said, why do you not let anybody get directly behind you? He said, because his dad was in World War II. He said, you act like somebody who's been in the war. And his dad would freak if somebody got right behind him, you know. And he said, you almost, he's not as bad as Dad. He said, but you act a little bit like him. And I said, well, it's because I would get scared. Somebody would come back behind me. My uncle did it to me, and also Mother did. Come up on you and just scare the heck out of me, you know, just like yell like really loud or something like that.
Yep.
But there are things that people do to their kids, and I don't know if they think they're being funny. I don't know what they think, but your kids are going to remember, and your kids are going to carry that all of their life. And I want to talk about that. We've got to go into a commercial break.
Okay.
We'll be right back in just a few minutes. I'm just telling you, your kids, you need to think about what you do and what you say to your kids, because it's a lifetime.
That's right.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you.
You know, finding the right home isn't just about bedrooms and square footage. It's about comfort, security, and the feeling you get the moment you walk through the door. That's why so many families across Greenwood and the Lakelands area trust Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams. And I'll tell you from personal experience, Jenny was my realtor, and she truly cares about her clients. Jenny takes the time to listen, to understand what matters most, and to guide you every step of the way, whether you're buying your first home, upgrading, or ready to sell. Because this isn't just a transaction, it's your life. With local knowledge, personal care, and a commitment to getting it right, Jenny Ferguson makes the process simple and even enjoyable. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, now's the time to make your move. Call Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams in Greenwood today and take the next step toward a place you'll truly love coming home to. Good afternoon, Sunshine. Medical Minute brought to you by Dr. Chuck with Lakelands Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. So what is the Beamer? Okay, now the Beamer uses very gentle pulse to electromagnetic signals. This will stimulate healthy muscles, and it supports the temporary blood flow. Now let's talk Beamer and circulation support. Now the Beamer gently supports natural circulation in healthy muscles. Now that's what I call natural health. Thank you so much for watching your Medical Minute, brought to you by Dr. Chuck. You know who he's with. He's with Lakelands Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. I hope you have a super duper awesome rest of the afternoon. You take care.
Lowe's knows that the projects you build in spring are the ones you can't wait to share. It's why we make sure you have our best deals with My Lowe's Rewards, and that you get help from people who've
been there,
done that.
Try this.
This spring, we'll help you build something rewarding.
Hey, Stan.
What's up? I made you something.
Oh, thank you.
And I got something for you. You grew these?
Of course.
Lowe's knows how to help you spring.
Okay, we are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. So blessed to get all these different avenues to be able to talk with you and get word out. I've got DeJoly with me, and DeJoly is one of those, she'll tell me like it is. And you've got to have a friend like that. I mean, you must. Even when it hurts. And so, because sometimes I have to be set straight. You know, I just have to. And the breathing techniques, the writing with my right hand instead of my left hand when I'm journaling, all of those things are going to help you out. So I want you to really listen to DeJoly as she talks to you about transforming your life. Go at it, DeJoly.
All right. Well, the point is that when you write, you're able to come to that clarity, which brings the aha moments. I do a lot of free half-hour workshops, usually on Tuesday or Saturday, depending. And people are amazed that they can get something out of a half hour. But it's not like you have to write for days and days and days and go deep and all of that. You can heal without even telling the situation that you're healing from. It's a way. I use writing prompts. I ask questions that you can or you can't answer. You can share whatever you write. If you don't want to share, you don't have to. So my workshops are free, and they're if you go to my Facebook page, I always announce them there. I always come back in and I say it's coming up in 2 hours. Come on in, that kind of thing. I give a Zoom link so that if you're looking at whether or not you can, have a improvement, whether it's with yourself or others. I like to say yourself or others because we often don't have any better relationship with ourselves than we have with anybody else. So if we have a poor relationship with our friends or our acquaintances, we probably have the very same disconnected, harsh relationship with ourselves. And so you can also gain, when I say that transformation is about becoming more compassionate and kind toward ourselves. Because oftentimes we think, well, if we get what we want, if we get all the stuff we want, we're going to be happy. But really, getting all the stuff is not the test of whether you're going to be happy. It's about whether you can receive in a way that's kind and compassionate toward yourself. And so, and give, of course, but giving in a way that's not transactional. It's relational. In other words, you are in relationship with something, whether it's your relationship with your inner child, with your adult self, or with other people. You're still in relationship. That's why we're here. We're in a community, worldwide community. And so when we write with the intention. And there is intention in the writings that we do that I take great effort to be intentional with the questions that I ask so that they're open-ended, where people can actually ask themselves, now, what do I really think about that? Why do I think that way? Just always be curious. So the transformation comes through writing and becoming clear about what it is that you're thinking and feeling at the time, being aware of your body reactions, being aware of the emotional triggers, because you can get them one right after another. If something happens and all of a sudden you're in that space, I want to say something related to your experience with the closet. That creates PTSD, post-traumatic stress. And I don't want to say disorder because it's a good response. It's a normal response to be stressed about being locked in a closet. And so it's not a bad thing. It's just what is. So when you can write about it and allow yourself to do some, I also do a workshop on forgiveness. It's a letter to yourself, a letter to others that you feel like you want to forgive, and so on, because forgiveness is about ourselves, not about the actual forgiveness of this. Oh, it's okay that you did that. No, it's not okay that you did that, but it's okay that you had that reaction.
I can see that. It's because there's so many things that we carry, and I mean, releasing that. So let's talk a little bit about releasing something terrible somebody did to you. How important is that, and how can you release it?
Well, I can say that I had an extremely traumatic childhood. And by being able to do the work, what's that? Something happened with the, okay.
It might have been.
Okay. By being able to do the work of writing, excuse me, what it was that happened, because I went through a period of about 20 years of speaking publicly about healing from the abuse. And as I did that, each time I spoke, it became less and less impactful on me. So I can see and have experienced that if you write consistently, regularly, and in a way that just explains it all. I mean, I used to, why did they do that to me? I don't know. And then it got to, well, I learned something from that. And then it got to, okay, that's a movie that I saw somewhere, because it became less and less emotionally impactful on me. So I know that it can be done. And through the forgiveness letter that we work on, I explain all the parts of it, all the reasons why you would write certain things. And then it's up to you to take the effort and because all the work that you're doing is not for me. It's not for show. It's not for performance. It's actually for coming to an understanding of who you are and why you are the way you are. And then allowing yourself to pivot. I love the word pivot because, you can become a master of being a victim. You can become everybody did everything bad to me kind of person. And you can move through that. Literally, you don't have to stay in that situation. You can pivot and say, well, now, what was it that I should have learned from that? Why does it keep happening to me? Is this a pattern? And the thing is that you can see patterns of behavior, patterns of thought, patterns of beliefs that you have about things. Even, for instance, the way you deal with money. How do you deal with money? Is it because you were ever taught about money, finances? Were you ever taught about investing? Most of us were taught by example of seeing our parents say they didn't spend on us. They didn't spend on things that were enjoyable. They paid their bills. They barely made enough money. I mean, all kinds of things. Some people are wealthy, but they're still unhappy about money because they have never learned the value of, it's not the value of the money itself, it's the value of the things that you get from having the money. So we have this, only bad people get rich and all that stuff kind of, you've got to work hard to get money, that kind of thing. So we have all these beliefs that don't have to be there if we can write about it and allow them to fade away by reframing this. We do a lot of reframing in the writing process of, now what does that mean? Why do you want to keep that belief, or do you want to, how is it holding you back? How is it affecting your relationships by having that belief? How is it affecting your ability to pay your bills if you have that belief? How is it affecting your happiness in your work if you have that belief? So, we don't have to say that so-and-so did this and this and this at work. You can say, it's not about that stuff. It's about the feeling that you got. One of the things that Maya Angelou said, and I love it, is that people will never remember what exactly you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And so
true.
It's very true. So we remember those things, and it's stored in our body. Our bodies are very wise, and they'll tell us, and they'll shake it out of us if we're not careful.
They do. DeJoly, we've got to call it today. I can't believe the show is already over.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we've got to go to another desk, but I'll tell you what I want to do. You hang around, okay? I've got to get you an hour somehow.
Okay.
You're on the show. And guys, thank you so much for watching. We definitely appreciate you. Continue sending email. This is what DeJoly and I like. We want to know where you're coming from and what you would like to hear. It sounds like we're all going through that same walk in life. Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. Thank you for watching. DeJoly, love you much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.